Blessings, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Dane, your host. Hope you're doing well wherever you may find yourselves. Today's video is part 3 in discussing yet another case against AI. I've done 2 already. The last one was a couple days ago, and I did one a while back, which was about in defense of Rick Beato, talking about how music has declined and that sort of thing. And the reason for this video is, as it often happens with us human beings, you think you're done with a topic, and then more ideas start pouring in moments that you least expected, like you're about to fall asleep, that kind of stuff. So I'm the type of person that has to get up and write it down before I lose it. And I think that these are some very important things to say that I missed in the last video. So here is the follow-up to that. Also want to point out that there's a huge connection between what I'm going to present with you today with respect to education. Since I'm a teacher and I'm an educator, it made sense that these ideas would pop into my head. And it's disturbing for teachers, or it's a problem for us teachers, for administrators out there, students, parents alike, those who take education seriously and that sort of thing. Unfortunately, not enough people do, students and parents alike. All right, so technology can be a good thing. Again, I'm not saying AI is totally bad, but it does have its limitations. It does pose its problems. Moderation is always the key for most things. The exception to that would be prayer, love, that kind of stuff. But essentially what we have here with AI, what could possibly happen is throwing the baby out with the bathwater kind of a thing, and that's never good. In a previous video, I talked about laziness, so I'm not going to go down that road again. But I did mention in the previous video how technology can enable bands and musicians, if your engineer, your producer, etc., is using technology because the band in question isn't that good, as the person said in that video that I responded to. And so where does the education factor come in? Well, this is where things begin to encroach upon my sleep, or encroach upon me wanting to fall asleep last night. Was, if you're in education, or even if you're not in education, because you've experienced this yourself, where your spelling isn't as good as it used to be. Recognizing parts of speech, I've learned from students, isn't what it used to be. They don't know it. Learning things like metaphor, simile, have to reteach it quite a lot because of the technology. We just look things up. Let's Google it, right? That kind of thing. And that's very big and responsible for why so many people, adults alike, can't spell anymore, don't know their parts of speech. Back when I used to teach the haiku, I was flabbergasted because my students can't count syllables. They look at a word like refrigerator, re-fridge-er-rator. Instead, I don't have time for that, or I don't know how to do that. I was like, you're kidding me, right? So they found a website and it counts the syllables for them. So vocabulary, people's vocabulary, including us adults, has tanked because, we can just look it up. Remembering phone numbers and addresses, again, because of the internet. Again, I'm going to connect this to music. So connected to all what I just said, I saw on the news last week, 3-4 days ago maybe, was that our country relies on GPS. It's now part of our infrastructure, and we don't have a backup like other countries have. And if the authority on this, or authorities on this in the country we're talking about on the news, the world news, which I barely watch, we're talking about that we're doomed as a nation with respect to our infrastructure if our GPS goes down because of terrorist attack or what have you. Again, no backup like other countries. And I thought, this is a nightmare waiting to happen. And then I was reminded of the Microsoft incident that happened a few months ago, where the banks and doctors' offices, et cetera, and other businesses went down and couldn't function, and because the reliance on the technology. And I thought to myself, and I asked the clerk when I walked to the bank, and they turned me away, is because I said, in the olden days before the internet, people did banking, and she just looked at me like I was stupid. So you don't have a backup plan for when the internet goes down. I was like flabbergasted by that. Same thing with the doctor's office. They were able to bill me later. Businesses, as much as people post photos and stuff on the cloud, if that goes down, your photos and stuff are lost. Identity theft and people stealing your information is gotten out of hand. And again, I'm not a Luddite in saying technology is bad, but you got to have a backup plan. Or did you not stop to think about, again, I'm going to connect this to music. Did you not stop to think that maybe perhaps instead of having thing on in the internet or on the cloud, that people's personal information should be stored away in files in a drawer, in a file cabinet, and you have security guards? That worked so well when I was growing up as a kid. So when you have technology in place, but you don't have a backup plan, an analog plan, essentially, that's an issue. So again, the connection to music is coming. So here's the tie to music. So the gentleman I talked about, again, no name, not to give you the name of the channel, said that he used technology to make a band because the band wasn't that good. And I talked about how that was enabling, etc. If that becomes status quo, like the GPS thing, we're doomed when it comes to music as an art form. Because if you don't have a backup, because the technology is not available, because you're over-reliant on the tech, then what is your next move? That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Because what you have on your hands here is, it's like the spelling, the lack of people being able to spell, the lack of people being able to count syllables and write poetry and remembering or learning rather parts of speech and vocabulary and phone numbers and all of that. Let's just go to the internet, right? Relying on the technology can be a double-edged sword. So if it becomes a status quo that we're going to rely on technology to spice up people's lack of talent or lack of technical skills when it comes to music, then like the spelling, etc., then people are going to lose their musical capabilities and their musical talent altogether because they're not harnessing it, they're not practicing, they're not, going, well, I'm going to rely on technology to do my work, so therefore I don't have to work. So your talent is going to shrink and disappear eventually. And of course, that's a bit of a stretch right now, but it could happen. I have a couple props to show you what I mean. So not having a backup plan, which is essentially your talent, because when you use technology so much, you run the risk of becoming lazy and your talent level shrinks. And let's see. It was a couple. My handwriting sometimes is so horrible. So what I'm getting to is, will it become so bad or relying on technology as musicians that we won't even be able to play a musical instrument anymore because, again, like the spelling, parts of speech, etc., the GPS reliance, the Microsoft reliance for banks, etc., that we just can't do it. Okay, that's again a big fear that I have for the future generations especially. And so what it boils down to, if you've ever seen the movie Jurassic Park or read the book, it's in both, when the character Ian Malcolm says, and he turns to the Victor Frankenstein character that is John Hammond, he's the modern version of Victor Frankenstein, because Malcolm says, playing God, that kind of thing, going above and beyond your limitations and what you should do. And that's the key word, because he turns to John Hammond and says, you only stop to think about what you could do. You didn't stop to think if you should do it. Okay? Again, enabling musicians and the talent shrinking and all that. So here are my two props. In my previous video, I used this album cover not to and I left the Black Sabbath logo out because I wanted people to focus on this machine, Grim Reaper, killing this young boy here. And that is a great symbol of what could happen with respect to lack of talent, killed by machinery. You have the Motorhead song, Killed by Death. Well, killed by mechanical death. And of course, you have a song on here that imitates this album cover, which is Computer God, right? And finally, could this be a reality, 2112, where music is banned altogether, or music is no longer recognized in some way, not perhaps a total literal sense that this happens, but in this that it's banned and everything, but we don't recognize music anymore because it's too far removed, because people aren't playing instruments. You have the wonderful discovery and presentation section of this, and of course the protagonist does a dreadful thing because he can't live without music. So real music, not computerized music. So I just wanted to make yet another connection in how important talent is, how important analog, that is our hands, our eyes, our ears, are playing instruments and not relying on technology so much for creating music. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. God bless. Bye now.